how to get started in game development. How would you feel if you could change reality, shape the world, or even the universe to how you think it should be? A reality where everyone has superpowers. Or maybe you're the only one with superpowers. A reality where you're in a faraway land full of magic and wonder. Or maybe a desolate wasteland where you have to fight to survive. And what if we told you that reality is possible? Maybe not in the real world, but in a world you create. A world which you make the rules. A world where you define not only what's real, but what's not real. It's never been easier to not only create, but release your own game. Anyone can make a video game, no matter your age, gender, or location. Contrary to popular belief, you don't have to be a master artist or programmer to create your own games. In fact, you can make a game without any art or programming skills whatsoever. These days, there are enough tools and resources that making games is easier than it's ever been in the past, and not being able to create game art or write game code isn't something that can stop you. And with the widespread growth of independent game developers, creating a game has never been easier or cheaper. Anyone from 9 to 90 can easily learn the skills and gather the resources they need to create a game. In fact, most of the skill in making video games comes from passion and following through on your dreams, not from how you go about doing it. In the past, we've gone over the process and pipeline of game development. We've also gone over all the major roles and jobs in the game industry, as well as software and tools used for game development and how to get them for free. In this video series, we'll cover all the things you need to know to start your journey into game development. While this video isn't a practical tutorial like some of our other video series, this series is designed to give you all the knowledge and tools to get started in game development. However, if you're looking for a practical game development tutorial to start you on your journey into game development, be sure to check out our Creating Full Games from Start to Finish, Games Without Code, or Games with Code tutorial series. Creating games can be an exciting adventure, but there are many components that go into games, such as art, programming, sound, effects, lighting, and so much more. So it's easy to see how for many people, developing a game can seem like an overwhelming task and not know where to begin. But in this video series, we've broken down the process of how to get started creating video games into 7 steps: passion and dedication, idea and concept, hardware, picking and learning a game engine, programming and scripting, art tools and software, and sound tools and software. Passion and dedication. Though creating games can be a fun and exciting adventure, we'd be lying if we said it was also an easy one. Whether you're new to it or a seasoned vet, each new game brings with it new challenges, and many don't have an easy or straightforward solution. And while developing games can simply be a fun pastime, becoming a professional or successful indie game developer requires a lot of time, energy, dedication, and passion. The game industry is extremely competitive, and while we're not suggesting as a solo game developer you need to single-handedly be able to produce the next Grand Theft Auto or Call of Duty to succeed, you do need to be able to produce art, design, or code that is quality enough to be incorporated in those games if working at a professional game studio is your goal. One of the first questions you need to ask yourself is, what is it about video games that you love or are most passionate about? Is it the art, the storytelling, the gameplay, or maybe even the technology? One of the first steps of getting into making video games is determining what direction you want to go in, and each discipline of game design, art, and development has multiple branching paths that you can specialize in. And while your interest in the different areas of game development may vary, even experienced developers who are proficient in multiple areas of game development will often have an area of development that they are far better at than others. Oftentimes, they are able to leverage their skills in these areas to allow them to successfully develop and launch games that leverage their strengths and hide their shortcomings. Minecraft is a prime example of this. While the art in the original Minecraft may be rudimentary, it more than made up for this in game mechanics and technology. Design your game around your skills and strengths. Constraints force us to be creative and think outside the box. If you're a great artist, create a beautiful game with simple gameplay. If you're a great programmer, create a technically complex game with a minimalistic art style. If your dream is to work for a game studio, your focus shouldn't be coming up with new, unique, and innovative ideas. Your focus should be on how to turn an idea into a tangible reality. If you get to a point you're stuck or unsure how to create or implement a certain mechanic, don't be afraid to reach out and ask. All the major engines have active communities that allow you to post questions on their forums. There are also several forums on places like Reddit, with plenty of people who will be more than happy to lend their advice or assistance. Additionally, introspection and the ability to take criticism are two of the primary skills you'll need to succeed in the game development industry. As passionate as you may be, and as much as the game you're making is a labor of love that you're itching for the world to experience, games aren't created in a vacuum. For you to develop a truly great game, you'll need to accept and recognize feedback from testers and players. And while not all criticism, or even most in many cases, will be constructive, even the harshest criticism can contain gems of insight or ideas to help you create a better game or experience. And in some cases, you'll simply have to accept your idea or concept just isn't working. Or perhaps the time it will take to get it to the level you envisioned just isn't worth it. In cases such as these, it's important to realize you're not a failure or a quitter. A crucial skill in this industry is the ability to be agile. Don't get married to any one idea, concept, or way of doing things. Instead, be flexible enough that you're constantly evaluating what you're doing, finding things that work and don't work, and are able to shift gears at a moment's notice. But most importantly, love the journey, not the destination. It's not uncommon for a AAA game to take 2 years or more to complete. Even indie games, depending on the size of the game or the studio, can take just as long, if not longer. While oftentimes everyone involved is excited to see the fruits of their labor and ready to present it to the world, you need to be equally excited, if not more so, about the time you spend developing that product. Idea and concept. It's fairly common when first getting into game development that you will begin trying to create the type of game you most enjoy playing, whether it's Fortnite, Call of Duty, Final Fantasy, or Grand Theft Auto. These games are made by large teams of sometimes hundreds of experienced artists, designers, and programmers over a span of several years. Even experienced game developers who are proficient in multiple, if not all areas of the game development pipeline, know that single-handedly making a game at the same level of a large AAA franchise is nigh but impossible. Your goal when developing your first game should be to learn and build something basic that is playable by you and others. Your first few games should be more about learning and exploration rather than building the game of your dreams. So remember, start small. Video games combine many different art forms and technologies, and if it's new to you or you're aspiring to be a game developer, mastering them all is no small task. So instead of trying to develop the next Fortnite or Grand Theft Auto for your first game, starting with a smaller, older, or mobile game would probably be a far more achievable goal. Instead of creating your magnum opus for your first game, you should try to recreate a simple existing game from scratch. This can be a great way to help you understand the process in how to make a game and the basic mechanics you'll need in future games and how to create them. Additionally, since all the aspects of the gameplay, menus, player feedback, and mechanics have already been established and proven, you don't have to spend extra time in figuring out how they can all work together as a cohesive whole. Doing this will also teach you how games work, and most importantly, what makes a game fun and why. This also gives you a reference point on your skills, your area of focus, and what you need to work on or gear your focus towards in the future. That said, one of the most important aspects in this process is finishing your first game. As with any other skill, learning how to design and develop games takes time and practice, and in many cases, creating your first game will be like the first time you rode a bike. It may seem impossible at first, and you may stumble a bit in the beginning, but the more you do it, the better you'll get. Hardware. When you're first getting into game development, you don't need the most powerful computer. Many inexpensive desktops or laptops will be enough to run many of the applications you'll need to get started. In fact, we often advise new or potential game developers not to spend all their money on the front end investing in hardware or high-priced equipment. The main reason for this is it's important to first invest your time and energy so you can see if game development or which aspect of game development is right for you. As time progresses and your skills and work get more advanced to the point you've outgrown your current hardware, buying more expensive equipment, computers, or parts is far more justified than buying them on the front end. One of the first questions you'll need to ask and answer is whether you want to make 2D or 3D games. Regardless of the type of game you'd like to make, when first starting out, the barrier for entry is fairly low. You certainly don't need anything fancier or more costly than the average gaming PC, and depending on the nature of your project, you can get away with much less. In fact, in many cases, you can simply get away with using a laptop with an integrated graphics processor and a single or dual-core CPU. Keep in mind, in most cases, the required specs of your machine totally depend on the type of game you want to make and the engine you work with. That being said, we've broken down the hardware into two different PC builds. The first is a cheaper machine, mainly for the purpose of developing 2D games using Unity, GameMaker, or a 2D game engine. The second is a PC built mainly for 3D development in Unity or Unreal Engine. And while a beefed up PC with 32 gigs of RAM, an Intel Xeon Gold, and an NVIDIA Quadro GV100 may make you feel like an unstoppable game development king, it takes more than great hardware to make a great game. Unity 2019 and GameMaker's minimum system requirements are Windows 7 64-bit or higher, a CPU with a 64-bit or x64 architecture, and a graphics processor or card that is DX12 capable, such as an NVIDIA GeForce GT 1030 or AMD Radeon Vega, which you can purchase for well under $100. Unreal Engine's minimum recommended system requirements are Windows 7 64-bit or higher, a quad-core Intel or AMD processor, 2.5 GHz or faster, NVIDIA GeForce 470 GTX or AMD Radeon 6870 HD series card or higher, and 8 gigs of RAM. So even if you plan on developing high-end 3D games with Unreal, you can purchase a computer for less than what you'd pay for a PlayStation 5. First and foremost, remember, in this day and age, game development is possible on basically any PC or laptop. Some more advice would be, buy the best GPU or graphics card you can afford. Don't upgrade your CPU every generation, and anything more than 16 gigs of RAM starting out is probably overkill. Keep in mind, the hardware doesn't make the game, and even without any hardware to work on, you can still begin your journey into game development. And while it may prevent you from practicing some of the things you've learned, things such as game design and game theory can be learned and practiced with nothing more than a pen and paper. Pick and learn a game engine. For those of you that are unfamiliar with what a game engine is, a game engine is a software development environment designed for people to build video games. In many cases, game engines provide a suite of visual development tools in addition to reusable software components. These tools are generally provided in an integrated development environment to enable simplified, rapid development of games. Nowadays, there are several off-the-shelf game engines used by professional studios that are available to us. the two biggest being Unreal and Unity, both of which are free, and we covered extensively in our Software for Game Artists video, as well as our Unreal 5 vs Unity 2020 LTS video series. And while picking the game engine that is right for you and best demonstrates your talents on your particular focus area of game development is important, while perhaps not as robust as Unreal as far as feature sets that are included in the software, in our experience, in many cases, Unity is far easier to begin, understand, and develop for. Additionally, its C# scripting language is far easier and less forgiving than Unreal C++. Furthermore, while originally it was simply built for developing 3D games, over the past few years, Unity has incorporated many tools for fast and efficient 2D game development as well. Both Unity and Unreal can port to almost any platform, including PC, Mac, Linux, WebGL, Android, iOS, and any current-gen console. Both Unity and Unreal are incredibly robust, versatile game engines, and in our opinion, when picking between the two, there is no wrong choice. And while we understand there are many other game engines available to you on the market today, both Unity and Unreal are not only free, but utilized by many professional and indie game studios that exist today and have a proven history and dedication to keeping their software up to date with large communities that can help you solve any problem or roadblock. But remember, the tools don't make the game, and many game engines are free or have free trials. So after you find one that looks interesting to you, download it, learn it a bit, play around, and choose the engine that you're most comfortable with and that best suits the game you want to make. Sound design tools and software. Sound is easy to take for granted in a game, but plays a pivotal role in every game experience. Even a simple sound can set the entire mood of a game and can shift a player's experience.
Another trespasser, a girl. Did you see her?
Sound in video games can be broken down into three parts. Gameplay cues. Gameplay cues are sounds that reinforce what is happening to or around the player. Feedback. Feedback are sounds that reinforce the decisions or actions a player is making within a game. Driving emotions. Driving emotions are music and sounds that are added to convey the emotions the player should be feeling in that moment and work to pull the player into the experience. One of the most important and crucial aspects of audio in games is attaching your sounds to game events, such as adding audio dialogue to a story event, changing the music when the player moves to a new area, or even something as simple as adding footsteps as the player moves around. To help make all these sounds, audio or game designers usually find sound, music, or effect components in sound libraries. But in the event they can't find what they need publicly available or in a sound library, they simply create and record them themselves. A few great sound softwares that are free and used by professional game developers and game studios are Fmod. Firelight Technologies' audio tool suite Fmod Studio is widely used in the games industry. In recent times, it has been used in Supergiant Games' Transistor, Turn 10's Forza 5, and in Evolution's Drive Club. The tool is used for creating sound generators and effects among numerous other uses. The recent release of Fmod Studio 2.1 also added extra platform support and enhancements to the profiler to feature live game output recording, playback and scrubbing, as well as support for a host of new data tracks including per event instance, voice, CPU, parameter values, 3D values, and instance tracking. Firelight offers a free license for indie developers with budgets under $100,000. Audacity. Audacity is an open-source, cross-platform audio software that is completely free to use. Audacity can be used to record live audio, record computer playback, edit WAV, AIFF, FLAC, MP2, MP3, or OGG Vorbis sound files, cut, copy, splice, or mix sound together, and also change the speed or pitch of a recording, plus a number of other useful features. Audacity supports 16-bit, 24-bit, and 32-bit samples, and tracks with different sample rates or formats are converted automatically. Built-in effects are also available, including echo, reverb, and reverse. WWise. One of the most popular audio tools used in games, Audiokinetic's WWise suite has been built for both indie and AAA developers to use. The tool can be integrated into a number of engines, including Unity, Unreal Engine 3 and 4, CryEngine, and development toolset Marmalade, and supports 14 platforms in total. The tech features HDR audio, a number of built-in effects, and has a series of plugins available. WWise is free to indies via a limited commercial license, which allows devs using less than 200 sound files in their WWise project to use it at no cost. In regards to sound libraries, here are a few great sites where you can download sound effects, music, and even complete sound libraries. OpenGameArt.org. OpenGameArt.org is a website that allows artists, game developers, and video creators to freely download and use any file submitted to this site. The licenses on the site tend to vary, so be sure to adhere to the license terms of the files you're downloading. Freesound.org. Freesound is a treasure trove of royalty-free sound samples and is utilized by many professional musicians and filmmakers. Samples from Freesound.org have been used by The Prodigy and featured in the movie Children of Men. You can search Freesound.org by keyword, license type, file type, and many more parameters, so you'll only see the search results you want. Noiseforfun.com. Noiseforfun.com is a freeware project created in 2011 by sound designer and composer Filippo Viccarelli. You don't even need to register in order to access the free sound samples. Sounds are arranged according to game genre, making it extremely easy for game developers to navigate. Bensound.com. Bensound.com is a source of royalty-free game music that is available to you under Creative Commons license. This website is really easy to use, and the songs themselves really stand up at a professional level. The songs are arranged by genre and made available for free as MP3 files. Audio Jungle. While not a free site, Audio Jungle contains all genres of professional royalty-free music, from pop to heavy metal and vocals, but also music kits and sound effects. Top quality royalty-free music tracks are guaranteed on Audio Jungle. You can check out reviews left by other users and use collections to save your favorite music while browsing. Music, sound effects, and sound design is critical to game development. They can reinforce the gameplay experience and core theme of the game in a way that draws the player into the game world.
Marcus! He's gone! He's gone! There's nothing you can do! Stop
Get
it!
off me! God
Stop
damn it!
it!
Let me get him out of there!
It's okay, Marcus. It's okay. Come on. We gotta go now. Your father still needs us.
So while you may never strive to be a professional Foley artist or sound engineer, learning how to effectively utilize sound in music can be a key component to your game's success. Art tools and software. Whether it's 2D or 3D, art, like programming, is an essential part of almost every game. From characters to environment and menus to vehicles, art in games can sometimes rely on a variety of different softwares, tools, and skills that you need to, at the very least, familiarize yourself with. The first question you need to ask and answer is, do I want to make a 2D or 3D game? 2D and 3D art rely on completely different softwares and skills you need to learn, and while in some cases mainly involving 3D, the software may overlap, but there are many aspects of them that don't. We speak more in depth about these differences in our video, How to Become a Video Game Artist. While in this video, we won't go into much detail about all the different software available to you for either 2D or 3D art for games. In our video series, Software for Game Development Explained, we cover each software and more, as well as how to get them for free. With that said, here are some great tools for 2D art. First and foremost is Adobe Photoshop, which can be used to create anything from character to environment art, as well as sprites for effects, menus, and UI. Additionally, Adobe Illustrator is a great tool to use in conjunction with Photoshop, or even as a standalone product for developing sprites, menus, and UI. Next, for 2D games, is a program called Spine 2D or Brash Monkey Spriter. Both are animation tools that focus specifically on 2D animation for games. Similar to animating in 3D, both programs use a bone-driven method of creating animations. Additionally, over the last couple of years, Unity has incorporated many 2D tools to create not only bone-driven 2D animations, but also environments, props, and 2D lighting effects. As another alternative, depending on your art skills and knowledge of traditional hand-drawn animation, you can simply hand-draw each animated frame to create your animation as well. And while this process may not be as fast as creating 2D bone-driven animation, games such as Cuphead have proven that there is a positive noticeable difference in hand-drawn 2D sprite animation when compared to its bone-driven counterpart. In regards of creating 3D games, both Autodesk Maya and 3D Studio Max are the industry standard in not only the game industry, but the film industry as well. They are both 3D computer graphics softwares that contain toolsets which can be used to create characters, environments, props, animation, visual effects, and much more. They both offer easy 3D asset export and integration for every major commercial 3D game engine. Alternatively, Blender is another all-purpose 3D application that supports the entirety of the 3D game art production pipeline. And while not an industry standard software, unlike Maya or 3D Max, Blender is completely free. Something to note is both Maya and 3D Max offer a free full version. For more details, watch our video, Free Professional Game Development Software for 3D Artists. With that said, your main goal for your first project is not to create art that rivals that of a AAA game studio. Instead, your goal should be to build a solid foundation by learning as much as you can about the software and tools. Programming and coding. Programming is a huge part of any game's development. Everything from interactive elements to character actions like walking, running, jumping, shooting, or fighting all have to be programmed into a game. So it's not surprising that most people think that in order to develop a game, you have to either know how to program or ideally have a set of programmers on your game development team. And while learning how to code for games is an extremely useful skill that can allow you to create anything from game mechanics to developer tools, learning and mastering every single element of game development can be a monumental task. But whether you're looking to create a platformer, fighter, shooter, racing game, RPG, or anything in between, you can create it without having to learn complex programming languages or programming paradigms by utilizing visual scripting. Visual scripting or visual programming is a gameplay scripting system found in many, if not all, of the major commercial game engines on the market today. In our video series, Creating Games Without Writing a Single Line of Code, we covered many tools you can use in both Unity and Unreal to develop games without learning how to program. For a practical tutorial on developing games without code, look at our Creating Full Games from Start to Finish Without Code video series link in the description. However, if you're not interested in using visual scripting and instead plan on learning how to write your own game code, it stands to reason that you need to learn the basics of programming. If you have some basic knowledge about coding in programming languages like C++, C#, Python, or Java, then you're already a step ahead of most. Otherwise, it's best that you at least learn the basics of programming before moving any further. For those looking to learn how to program for games but have no prior programming experience, there is no specific programming language that is exclusively used for game development. The C languages, C, C#, and C++, are the most commonly used languages when it comes to advanced games and software development. Most console and desktop-based computer games are built with one or a combination of the C languages. That being said, instead of trying to learn all of them at once, The programming language you should seek to learn is the one utilized by the game engine you choose to develop in. Programming can be scary at first. Nothing will make sense, all the different terms and rules can be a bit confusing, and you might even want to quit in the beginning when no matter what you do, you keep somehow getting errors in your code that prevents it from running. However, having errors in your code doesn't mean you're bad at programming. And despite how challenging or difficult it may be at first, it just takes time, like any other skill, to get good at. It'll get easier, and having mastered such a crucial area of game development will someday make you an invaluable part of a game development team. From art and programming to sound design and testing, creating games entails so many different skills, knowledge, and software, it can almost seem overwhelming, if not impossible, to ever be able to create a game. But remember, you don't have to master or even learn every single discipline in game development to create games. Our suggestion is to instead spend your time mainly focusing on one of the areas of game development you feel you are more comfortable with or more passionate about. Get good at it, master it, then move on to another area. For example, if you're good with math or solving problems, you can start to study programming and slowly build your programming skills. If you enjoy being creative or are good at art, whether it's 2D or 3D, spend the majority of your time focused on that aspect of game development in the beginning. In today's market, with things such as the Unity Asset Store, Unreal Marketplace, and many other sites that offer free or extremely affordable AAA quality 3D and 2D assets, levels, scripts, user interfaces, menus, and so much more, it's easier than ever to create and put out high-quality, well-received games without having to know how to program, create 2D or 3D art, or have the latest and greatest hardware. Making a video game is not about being the best programmer or artist, or having the best software or hardware. It's about creativity, dedication, passion, and drive. The specific software you use doesn't matter. The complexity of your code doesn't matter. The amount of art assets, or whether it's 3D or 2D, doesn't matter. Even the time that it took you to finish doesn't matter. What matters is that you went for it. You took the plunge. You had a dream. You set a goal, you worked to make it happen, and you saw it through to the end. Despite if you created the next Minecraft or not, despite how much money your game made or it didn't, despite what critics or anyone else says, no one or nothing can take away all the lessons you learned or skills you gained along the way. And that's what creating video games is all about. It's about being creative and passionate and sharing that passion with the world. So remember, don't just play, create. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell to be the first to see this and many other tutorials, game development tips, interviews, and free game asset giveaways.